welcome to Assetto Corsa, where none of the AI drivers want to get going. We are here in Monza in Assetto Corsa today, and we're actually doing the historic version of the racetrack. We're doing the 1960s version of Monza. Monza's, if you follow racing, is probably a track you're familiar with. Formula One races here pretty much every year. There's other events that happen here, of course, as well. But today there are various chicanes around the course. You know, those were added to increase safety, to slow the cars down a bit. Monza, you know, even today, is one of the fastest road courses in the world, even with all of the chicanes. So you can just imagine what today's cars would do on a circuit like this if they didn't have those added features to slow their cars down. Whoa, okay. But we are on the full 1960s version of this course. Oh, we're oversteering. Saved it. Without all the chicanes and everything. And we're actually going to be racing on the full 10-kilometer circuit. So we just went under the banked oval curve, which we'll be on here shortly. And this incredibly fast racetrack, they added like a full-scale high-speed oval track to it as well, which just made it incredibly fast. Slow down into Parabolica here. We've kind of lost the draft. This is a little bit like, in these cars, it's a little bit like restrictor plate racing, in that you lose that draft and it's not so easy to catch back up. You can see our competitors going by on the left there. That is the other class. We'll talk about them in a minute. So this circuit, it shared that front straightaway, the oval and the regular road course. But this full circuit, this 10-kilometer circuit, was actually used 4 different times in Formula One. So you can see how severe the bank is on these corners. Unlike a American track where we would normally go counterclockwise, they raced this going clockwise. And so yeah, you can just imagine how fast this race was back in the day. So Formula One raced here 4 different times. They were here in 1955 and 56, and then again in 60 and 61. And it's actually the circuit on which Phil Hill became the first American to win a Formula One race, or at least a Formula One race in Europe. I imagine that since the Indy 500 was considered part of the World Championship calendar, that one of the Americans that won that, like Bill Vukovic or someone, would have been the first driver to actually get a win in Formula One. But Phil Hill was the first one to do it in Europe. Hill raced with Ferrari and actually became the first one to win a world championship here in 1961. Although that's something of a tragic story. He and his teammate Von Trips were neck and neck down to the end of the season. I think they were separated by like a point or something. And at this race in 1961, at the Monza race in 1961, Von Trips had an accident and ended up dying in that accident and taking 15 spectators along with him. So that was the last year they used the full circuit with the banking for Formula One. Now, he didn't actually crash on the banking. He crashed into Parabolica. But still, it was decided that it was just too dangerous for them to continue with those kinds of speeds on this course. So really, really tragic end to using this circuit for Formula One. So anyway, the car that we are in is the Mazda MX-5, the Miata, the Unos Roadster, depending on where you see it. This is an incredible car. It's not particularly quick, and it's not very expensive, really, or not the sort of car that most people would put up on their bedroom wall and dream of the day that they could afford a Miata, because you can probably afford a Miata if you save up a little bit of money and you know, maybe get a part-time job delivering pizzas and save up for a few months. You could probably get one of these. You know, good first, second generation Miatas you can get for $5,000–6,000, sometimes even as low as $2,000 or $3,000. And they are incredible cars. I owned an NB version. Oh no, I bumped my gearshift lever. I owned an NB version of this car, a second generation version, which is really similar to the one we're driving here. They got rid of the pop-up headlights because the pop-up headlights were considered too dangerous for pedestrians, and so essentially the laws in Europe made them put fixed headlights in it. The engine got a little bigger. It went from a 1.6 liter to a 1.8 liter, although I think there were some late NA versions of the Miata that also had that 1.6 or 1.8 engine. But, you know, mechanically, layout-wise, it was very similar. So front engine, rear drive, and almost perfect weight distribution. So they did all these like little things, like they put the battery in the trunk. My car, I had a dead battery, a battery that was dying in the winter, and I needed a jump, and someone came over, and I backed up to, and I backed up to them. They were like, "What are you doing?" And I opened the trunk and showed them where the battery was. But they did that to maintain that perfect weight distribution. Mazda has a saying of Jinba Itai, which means, you know, horse and rider together, and that's just how this car feels. Like, it feels like it's perfectly designed to fit in with you. All right, so I think we came in third place with our MX-5 there, at least in class anyway. But yeah, it's an absolutely wonderful car. If you get a chance to own one, you absolutely should do it. All right, on to the next race. All right, here we are. We are still in a Mazda and still at Monza, but that's about where the similarities end here. Okay, we get to start out with a Miata dodging mini game. So we are in the Mazda 787B, just a monster of a Group C car. Very different than the car we were just in, and this lap will maybe be a little bit quicker than what we just saw with the MX-5. So this car is basically a contemporary of the NA Miata. Mazda released the NA Miata, the first generation Miata, in 1989. This car saw the light of day just a year later in 1990. There's also a pretty wide disparity in how many of these exist. So the Miata is perhaps the most popular sports car of all time. They're just everywhere. You go out for a drive on a Sunday and you see Miatas. This car, on the other hand, there were 2 787s built, and then 3 of this version of the 787B. And it was designed to conquer Le Mans. That was Mazda's goal. So this car was taken to Circuit de la Sarthe in both 1990 and 91, and they managed to win the race in 1991. Oh my word. Okay. This is a different experience than driving the MX-5 around here. Oh my goodness. Uh-oh. Oh dear. Okay. Okay, we're fine. We're fine. Jeez. You can imagine trying to drive this thing around here in real life. It is so bouncy and so just violent. You would give yourself an absolute concussion trying to do this. You wouldn't be able to see where you're going. It's just so violent. Wow. And so fast. Goodness. Anyway, so this car was taken to La Sarthe and, as I said, ended up winning in 1991. And it's sort of historic in a number of ways. First off, it's the last time a rotary engine was raced at Le Mans. I believe. Oh, shoot, forgot to switch gears. At least the last time a rotary engine won. It is also the last time a Japanese car won at Le Mans, at least until Toyota did it in 2018. So yeah, rotary engine, ridiculous beast of a car. It actually wasn't the fastest car in the class, but it had very good reliability. And this is not the greatest driving that you've ever seen, but it is fun. Just look how fast this car goes compared to those little Miatas over there. Alright, let's see if we can pick up the draft here. He didn't quite get all the way around me. This is also right about here where the skid marks are. No, babe, I think it's the other end of the oval. Sorry, it's the other end of the oval. Is a scene from one of my favorite movies in Grand Prix. But yeah, this is a super fun track. It's not difficult. It's not a hard track. The trick to it is, and you know, as you've seen in this race, there's only like 2 big braking zones, and if you screw those up, you're kind of done for the race. Which is precisely what I decided to do. But anyway, quite the contrast between the MX-5 and the 787B, but both iconic cars and both just amazing vehicles by Mazda. So thank you. I will see you next time. Goodbye.